Hey guys, welcome to the Extraordinary Ordinary People, episode one with Jameelah.
Hello, everyone. A lot of pressure, extraordinary, I guess I have to be today. So
Yeah.
it's mostly the ordinary part. So yeah.
No, I mean, just to give you guys some context, we met through Ivy, which is this amazing networking group where you get a lot of entrepreneurs, people in finance, marketing, all accounting, um, graphic design all over, and there's everyone is really interesting, so that's how we got in touch. So I thought she was just so interesting, and I wanted to share kind of your story and just to learn a little bit more about you. So yeah.
Awesome. No, thank you for inviting me. I love meeting new people and just, engaging on real conversation beyond small talk. So I
Yeah.
think this was the perfect opportunity. And maybe, getting to share this platform with you is a great honor. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. I know you're busy. Um, okay, so you're in a product strategy.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? I'm not in that world, so for me, yeah, that's totally.
Sure. So yeah, it's definitely one of those jobs that means everything and everything at the same time. Basically, I work on B2B products and come up with where we should roll them out, how, and making sure that everyone kind of understands what the roles and responsibilities are in order to launch a new product. So
Okay.
I definitely like what I do in terms of being able to drive the agenda and get things done. So it's good to start to see that to-do list,
Mhm.
dwindling as you're pushing the team forward and stuff. So that's what I kind of like about
Okay.
it.
So let's go back. Let's go
Yeah.
back to the college days.
No.
Can you
Hmm.
tell me a little bit more, what it's like to be, an African American female, going to Yale? Because I can imagine
Sure.
it's probably a different experience than, if you were Caucasian or something like that.
Yeah. So college overall was great, but it's definitely, I think, for everyone, that time when you're trying to figure out your identity and your values and establishing yourself like more independently from your parents. So I remember this really interesting conversation that I had when I was applying to college, and I grew up in a fairly diverse community, but went to an African American church, where I definitely had, a great sense of community and overall engagement with from the time I was in kindergarten all the way through graduating from high school. And someone was, when I realized that I got into Yale and was planning on going, they were like, oh man, how are you going to deal with the culture shock,
Yeah.
of being at a predominantly white university
Yeah.
and dealing with that. And, it was interesting because when I got there, it felt fairly familiar because, like I said, my community that I grew up in was fairly diverse
Okay.
in and
And
of
where'd you
itself,
grow up?
outside of DC, so the
Oh,
Northern
right.
Virginia area.
Okay.
Um, the interesting part was I actually spent even more time socializing with the black community
Hmm.
because it was the first time that I felt like there were a lot of resources
Hmm.
and education specifically dedicated towards black students. And I got
Yeah.
involved in an Afro American Cultural Center. I
Oh
was in
wow.
the gospel choir and
Oh, cool.
many other, kind of activities that were really about, black culture. So I
Hmm.
felt it was a little ironic that, they were expecting me to kind of flip out about, being in this predominantly white environment when
Hmm.
really it ended up being my deepest immersion
Oh, interesting.
into, my black identity. So,
Yeah.
and that's, the relationships that I built, the values that were shaped during that time
Hmm.
definitely carried through.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's a strong alumni network for the African American community within Yale?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, definitely people stay fairly engaged with the university, but also with each other.
Mm.
So people, we have our Facebook group, and when people
Mm.
travel to different cities,
Oh,
there's
that's cool.
definitely quite a few folks that they feel they can connect with.
Yeah.
So that's been great to see and
Mhm.
continue to thrive.
Yeah.
In that way. I would say more broadly, though, I haven't felt as connected
Mm.
with Yale as the institution.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so, that's something that I've definitely been keen to work on.
Oh, as of lately, or
Yeah, I would say, well, I would say in general. One,
hmm.
going off to grad school, you kind of start to involve yourself in a new institution, a new
Yeah.
community. So I just feel like during that time when I could have been really getting deeply involved with Yale activities and the Yale Club and in the city
Mm.
and all that other stuff,
Hmm.
it just wasn't a priority. And
Gotcha.
that's something that I'm definitely keen to do now.
It seems like HBS has like such a strong community. Like
Yeah.
everyone I know that went there, just they all know each other. It's like, oh, class of '79, class of '82. I'm like, wait, what? Is it like
Well,
that?
I can't say I have too many people in class of 79 that I could name drop in
Yeah,
any
yeah. I
way.
think it's within the years that you were
Right,
there, but
right.
it's just like I just noticed like they just all
Yeah.
know each other.
Well,
It's
it's funny,
incredible.
like a lot of the CEOs, it'll be like, oh yeah, Jamie Dimon used to sit in my section, and like
That's
you're
crazy
just
just
like,
thinking about
what? You
that.
guys are all just happen to be in the same class and all just happen to be, phenomenally successful. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I have found that I'm always kind of weirded out by it a little bit because
Yeah.
it's just incredible that there's such a concentration of people who, shared that time with each other and went on to reach that level.
Hmm.
Hopefully that happens for my class. A, because I hope that's me, and
Yeah.
B, because I hope my classmates do some phenomenal things, and some already are for sure.
Yeah.
Founding companies
Hmm.
that have been successful and stuff like that. But it's still the story's being written.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I noticed. So I used to work with a lot of hedge funds, and I
Hmm.
noticed. Obviously, there's a lot of HBS people that go into hedge funds or have private equity
Yeah.
firms or in investment banking, and that's when I noticed. Like they just all know each other, and I
Yeah.
think like HBS people are the best networkers. Like I
Mm.
feel like do they teach that in the curriculum? Because there's every time I meet like I'm always like okay, of course you want. It's just yeah, like they just know how to network.
Well, I would say it's a couple things. One is probably just the case study method forces
Mm.
you to learn how to share your ideas in moments
Hmm.
that are uncomfortable.
Okay.
And so you're kind of just, trained to do that all the time. I think the second piece is probably a bit of self selection.
Yeah. Yeah.
People who have, charismatic personalities that want to share their ideas and
Mm.
as I think the mission says, make a difference in leaders who make a
Mm.
difference in the world,
Yeah.
are attracted to the institution. Though, of course, a lot of people, want to be there
Yeah.
just because of the brand. But I do think there's an element of finding that fit, for
Hmm.
your personality and how you operate. And I think the third piece is they really just keep telling you that the network is the most important part, and
Yeah.
like you wasting your money if you don't network.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a combination of things. The self selection piece, though, I do think is genuinely a big part of it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I sometimes I'm a little intimidated by how well networked some people are. They always have their story
Yeah.
pitched, and they're like, oh, I was on the Metro North and now I have this business opportunity, and I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah.
how does that happen?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I've definitely seen them in action, and it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yes, so let's talk about Ivy. I guess
Yeah,
what's your experience with it so far? Like, how have you found it to be so
I
far?
love it. I mean, I'm fairly new, so
Hmm.
I am not generally the early adopter on most trends.
Okay. That could be a
So
good thing, right?
yeah, not I haven't bought the iPhone X. Not sure it's gonna happen for at least another year.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think once I heard about it a couple times from friends, it just sounded like it was something right up my alley.
Mm-hmm.
An area to do interesting things, to network and be social on a more regular basis with like-minded people was everything that I needed.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I don't know about you, but I find in the city, like at times, especially when you're not being intentional about your social
Mm.
life, it can just be dominated by really basic activities like
Yeah.
brunch and happy hour, work,
Boozy
brunch,
brunch.
happy hour.
Yeah.
Like, and so I
Hmm.
just wanted to really diversify the types of activities that I was doing.
Yeah.
So going to a gallery event on
Yeah.
Friday, with the cocktail reception, because there's still always,
Yep.
boozy element to
Yep.
whatever it is. It's just classy events
Hmm.
that you, do the boozy version of.
Yeah. What's your favorite event so far that you've done with Ivy?
I would say the Acumen Fund Impact
Oh.
Investing event.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just one is a incredible organization doing interesting things. I felt like it was just very intellectually stimulating because I was learning more about the space and how it's evolved.
Hmm.
And there was also this case element to it, which allowed me to nerd out.
Nice. Yeah.
And
And you
like,
got to participate and add value and give
right.
like kind of like give your take on like, oh, this is what I think, you guys should do and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like,
Yeah.
you're able to do it in a team aspect as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. I did one of those. It was
Yeah.
fun. It was great. I'm like, wow, like this, because everyone had different backgrounds. Like I
Mhm.
think we had like a lawyer, like typical corporate lawyer. We had me in like enterprise software sales, and then like everyone was from such different backgrounds. It was
Mhm.
like he was like, wow, this is actually really helpful. Like he's like, I'm surprised that it was really engaging. It
Yeah.
was really cool. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and that's another thing. I mean, not to rag on the city. I love New York, to be clear. We
Yeah.
could also talk about that. But,
Yeah.
you do tend to start finding that your social circles are
Yeah.
very concentrated in a few industries,
Mhm.
and any opportunity to kind of break the bubble a little bit is good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. For those of you guys that aren't in New York City, you gotta get over here and join the fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. Best city in the world.
It's funny because I actually like when I was younger, I was like,
Mhm.
I would never live in New York City. I can't believe I said that. And look, here I am in Midtown,
Mhm.
right? So
Right.
funny. It's like I can't believe I said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know that I had any particular feelings about New York until probably my senior year in high school, and I came
Hmm.
here on it was like a model UN
Oh
type of
yeah.
organization.
Yeah, I did that too. That was good
Um,
times.
and they brought like a whole bunch of us here to the city, and we went, and I can't even remember the itinerary at this point, but
Yeah.
at some point there was
This
some
is
free
exciting.
time, and
Yeah.
I just blazed off on my own, like left the whole group and the chaperones or whatever, and like
Huh.
just went traipsing the city for half a day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love the independence of the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah, it's great. Like sometimes I do that too, where I'll just take a day off because I'm like, oh, I have so many like vacation days left, and I'll
Yeah.
just literally just explore and just like get lost and
Yeah.
just find new things. It's really cool.
Exactly. So once that happened, I was kind of hooked and determined to come back when I
Yeah.
graduated from undergrad. So
Cool. Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about like HBS. Like, what was that experience? Like, were you pretty much like hung out with all different types of groups, or did you have your own group that you spent time with?
I mean, I got really involved in my section. My section actually was, fairly social, fairly cohesive. That was not necessarily the experience that I saw of other folks
Oh, okay.
from some other sections. Every section had their kind of reputation or whatnot.
What's a section?
Yeah, so it's basically your cohort of course, HBS is a really big school. So
Yeah.
it's
What was
90,
how big was your class?
It's about 900 and 950.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. So every cohort or section is 90 students, and there are 10
wow.
of them.
Gotcha.
Um,
Okay.
and
Wow,
essentially
that's pretty
that's the
big.
class that you take the 90 people in the classroom are the ones you take all your first year classes with.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So
Huh.
you get to know them pretty well.
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone has their role to play in the room.
What was your role?
um, I feel like I was always very reactive to the discussion, which I'll admit was partially because sometimes I didn't read the case before going into class.
Yeah.
So I'd always, and I feel like I still do this to this day. I just like to like push the thinking by
Huh.
asking a kind of like probing
Huh.
question. After someone makes a comment, I'm like, I
You're
don't
the
know how I feel
contrarian.
about that,
You're the contrarian.
Or I'm not necessarily. Actually, I
Okay.
don't believe in being the devil's advocate purely to be a devil's
That's what
advocate.
I do. I'm always that guy. They're like, come on, dude. So, like, really? Like,
It's
hey, someone's got to do
is the sky
it.
really blue? Like,
Yep. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's more like, let me just put something that either adds on or just pushes it to the next level. Maybe there's you made this statement, but we could extrapolate it even more to here and then test, do we still agree with it?
Okay.
So I think things like that were typically some of my comments, and partially again self-serving because occasionally I have not read the case. And some other folks, we had the bleeding heart person who would always bring the like personal element to the conversation.
There's always that person, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is cool, like sometimes.
Definitely. And I mean, I'm generally fairly bleeding heart, in general, but sometimes the linkages, you're just like, how does whack have to do with, building a model or whatever? But, there's always a way to connect things if you can. Yeah.
Are you guys close? Like, it sounds like you guys are pretty close. Like, do you guys still keep in touch?
Yeah, so we do, in most sections at least, try to have the tradition of sending email update on your birthday to the whole section, which I have not done mine this year. My birthday just passed a couple months ago.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not too late.
How was your birthday, by the way?
Oh, it was awesome.
I remember seeing that, yeah.
I go to karaoke.
Nice.
Past couple of years. Love it. It's
nice.
So
Where
fun.
at?
Pulse.
Okay.
It's in Midtown, which most of them are, but
it's
actually off the K-Town strip. If
oh,
you
okay.
will.
That's where I usually go.
Yeah. I was at Karaoke City this week.
Oh, nice. Good times. Oh, I love karaoke.
Yeah, good times. Absolutely. No, birthday was really good. But I haven't sent my update, and most folks in my section still do though, or at least every other year.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Keep it up. To keep folks updated.
Okay, so on that note, let's talk about dating in New York City.
Oh, joy, my favorite.
Yeah. So what is that like? How's that?
I mean, it's really interesting because the apps tend to like dominate dating strategies or
strategies.
Whatever you want to call it. It's not
Game
even
plan.
A strategy. It's not even a plan. It is throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks.
That's what it seems like. Right?
Yeah, that's what it seems like. But I feel like they got so popular so fast and quickly. People got really tired of them because, you're going through a lot of faces and names and trying to make a conversation out of no context, essentially. And you get tired of it, and people start copying and pasting. And
God, yeah. It's like you can't even take the time to, like, that's ridiculous. Like, that just shows, like, that's how low it's getting.
Yeah.
I guess if you could make like a recommendation to the people that, I guess the founders of these apps, like what would you say? Like, what would be some advice you would give them?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm really at a loss.
I know. There's just so yeah. Because I hear the same thing. I'm like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
It's like yeah, like it's like a necessary evil. Like I have to do it because there's like everyone else is doing it. But
Yeah,
it seems like a love-hate
exactly.
relationship.
I mean, I do think this conversion step to meeting in person is the biggest challenge.
Hmm.
And I do think that certain apps are starting to incorporate more events into their
Oh,
platform where
okay.
they're basically forcing the meetup to be a
Oh.
part of the app experience itself.
Huh. Yeah.
Or I mean, how about we, for example, was all about already pre-formed date ideas and you invite someone to it.
Oh, okay.
Hasn't
Huh.
been as successful, but
It's a
it's a
relatively
great
new.
idea.
Yeah.
I know it actually started a little while ago and I think has kind of hit its
Oh,
peak,
okay.
and hasn't really necessarily picked up as much, but the conversion to meeting in person is absolutely the biggest
Hmm.
part. And you always think of the conversion funnel from a marketing perspective,
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
in sales,
Yup.
so
Yep.
you know all about this, and
Yeah.
that is the biggest drop off in the
Huh.
funnel. Well, no,
Interesting.
actually, the biggest is probably who sends an actual message. And then the next big drop is meeting in person. So
Huh.
anything to solve that piece,
Hmm. Sounds
would
like
be great.
a billion dollar
There you
idea,
go,
I think.
guys.
Yeah,
Just
seriously.
gave you key business idea you can pitch to Shark Tank now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and become a millionaire. So.
Yeah, I feel like nowadays, like it's just there's so many startups and so many ideas because it's so easy to get funding that
Yeah.
it's like really you're like a company like I could have thought of that, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But I guess it's cool too because like I feel like anyone could literally start their own company nowadays.
Right,
Like
right.
it's like the barrier to entry is very
Mhm.
little. But I think once the market crashes, it was kind of. But then I think so I think it's cyclical.
Yeah.
So
It's true. I mean, I would also say though that for every one of those companies, I think they do find a great audience in the beginning because
yeah.
they are tapping into, a need of the moment. But I think longevity is really the challenge.
Yeah, like stickiness.
Yeah,
Call that, yeah.
exactly. To make sure that it's not just a fad or something that people get on because it's viral.
Yeah, yeah.
But making sure that people actually see that their lives are actually better, or a true problem is being solved for the long term rather than a novelty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. I think the stickiness is like a big one. There's so many unicorns like out now that it'll be interesting to see. Like I think everyone's like predicting like a crash.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And then like everyone's talking about Bitcoin and all this stuff.
True.
It's just like yeah, it's just crazy like how fast things are moving.
Yeah.
It's hard to predict the future, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, it does make me feel better about, my dating situation because sometimes I feel like VCs are throwing spaghetti at the wall themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Seeing what comes out, like a lot of these companies are just, on an idea. I guess until you try it and throw it out there, you just don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah. So on not to put you on the spot or anything, but she is single, guys. So
hey.
Any of my single friends, what would you be looking for? Just to put it out
there.
there.
I can't. I mean, for me, I am definitely, as I mentioned earlier, someone who's very social and wants to share that with somebody. So, I definitely enjoy being with people who introduce me to different activities and just in general have this, joie de vivre,
like adventurous.
Joy for life and wanting to experience a lot of things, whether it's travel or food or just random event pop-up shops or whatever.
Just like open-minded or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely appreciate that. And someone who's ambitious and really
like yourself.
True, but yeah, I do think, when folks have a purpose that they're working towards, it really makes for, great partnership and feeling engaged, not only in their career, but in the rest of their life, which makes it easier to have a solid relationship on.
Yeah. So someone that's like well-rounded sounds like it's not just work, but it's about like like having like a mission or having like something that's not just yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of eligible bachelors that you may know.
Yeah, yeah. There are.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah. Let's see. I wrote down. Oh yeah. Talk to me a little bit more about like corporate America and
Uh-huh.
that because so most of my experience has been with startups and
Mm,
smaller companies, but you have a lot of experience with working for corporate. Like how's
true.
that? What's your thoughts on that? Yeah.
No,
Exactly.
I feel like it's interesting because at the one hand, I know that bureaucracy and politics are, I mean, a the bane of my existence, and definitely, just something that comes at times with the territory of being at a really large company.
Hmm.
At the same time, I've also seen where lack of structure and lack of clarity on rules and responsibilities can create basically this tragedy of the commons dynamic.
Hmm.
So essentially in economics they always say if people don't know what land they own, nobody's going to take care of it,
Uh,
because you think someone else is going to do it. And
yeah.
we probably see this in New York in general. It's dirty as the day is
Yeah.
long because you can
Hmm.
always cede responsibility to the rest of the masses walking down the street.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, if you're not very clear on what you're supposed to be doing and what that means to the rest of the organization, it's very easy for people to get complacent,
Hmm.
lax,
Hmm.
and or for things to fall through the cracks. So
Yeah.
it's interesting because on the one hand, being in this environment has made me like, oh, politics, it's the worst, and all these titles that were given out because somebody needed to feel like they were progressing, but
Yeah. Yup. Yup.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've also seen where not having that structure has
Hmm.
been also very demotivating,
Yeah.
for people. And I've known
It's true.
folks that, in different startup environments where, after they get to a certain size, they're scrambling to figure out like an HR
Hmm.
policy. They're like, wait, what? We need maternity leave policies? Like,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like situations that you might not have anticipated that you all of a sudden need to react to and figure out a structure for.
Hmm.
So it's no surprise that in the end all of these startups become the big
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
machines that they do. I mean, Google's
Hmm.
and Facebook are like massive
Yeah.
corporations at
Yeah.
this point.
Yeah.
Though they're in the tech space. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, did you have to create for your MBA? Did you have to create like your own like HR policies and
Hmm.
do all that as well?
No,
That wasn't part of it.
it's interesting because I mean, as much as you go through the cases, and you see the examples of how it's done wrong and how it's done right, I do feel the tactical aspects of, hey, I'm leading somebody and I'm somebody's supervisor and they're not performing
Mhm.
well. How do I have that tough conversation with them?
Yeah.
How do I align with the other stakeholders that interact with them to, create some structure to mitigate any challenges that are there, or if when somebody's doing really well, how do I make sure to recognize them
Hmm.
appropriately and make them feel motivated, and excited about their role. Those
Yeah.
like more tactical aspects, are harder to get, just from
Hmm.
being in the classroom.
Yeah.
And I think the emotional EQ piece of reading the tea leaves, if you will, of the people that you're interacting with, also is much harder. You
Hmm.
just kind of, you know, gotta hope you don't end up being the case of the guy who did it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Example case.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Are some of your classmates are they doing like really interesting things or like what's everyone up to? I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a range. I mean, one, we have some joint degree folks who are kind of completing residency and
Oh.
really looking to be, leadership in hospitals and in
Oh, okay.
healthcare industry.
Wow.
Some folks worked with a scientist to commercialize a new pharmaceutical product.
Hmm.
So, many different industries being represented. One of my friends founded a makeup company that's doing
Hmm.
really well and getting a lot of coverage, which is
Wow.
exciting.
Hmm.
Great nude lipsticks. I'm actually wearing one. It's by Mented. Um,
Nice.
and I think it's just definitely a range. I think for the people who um, are kind of in the areas that are doing really well, they're really doing those industries that they're very deeply passionate about.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's been the theme that I've seen.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. And
exactly.
what about like people from undergrad? Like, do you, I know, you kind of keep in touch with them, but what are
Hmm.
they up to? So yeah, obviously you didn't go the poli sci route, right?
Yeah,
So more
it's
the
true.
econ
It's
route,
true.
I
I
guess.
do feel like most of my friends from Yale have gone more in the poli sci route.
Mm,
So I have several friends who are lawyers now.
yeah.
Mixed reviews on law
Yeah, I
school.
was gonna say, do they seem
I
happy?
mean, I'm glad I went to get an MBA. I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
I think really impactful work.
Mm,
Folks who are really advocating for criminal justice or
mm.
HIV policy. So
Okay.
really, really impactful work. So I think for those who are in those spaces,
Yeah.
they're really connected with how their work is impacting people and are really loving it.
Hmm.
So many others in, maybe the corporate law
Yeah.
situation might be kind of not as enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
And some others have just moved on from law in general at this
Hmm.
point. But yeah, it's been a range, but and I think a couple my other set of friends all went to med school. So I was
Oh.
originally pre-med
Oh, really? Oh,
when
cool.
I
I
was
was
in
too at one point.
undergrad.
Yeah.
Weren't we all?
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it's
feel
like
like
once you get to Orgo class, you're like, oh
yeah,
God, like
yeah.
Orgo. Yeah,
I was
that
like,
killed
am
me.
I committed? Am I really, really
Yeah, you gotta be
committed? And I was
committed.
like,
It's like residencies forever. And
forever.
then
Yeah.
fellowship too, like Jesus.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
We'd still be in school right
yeah. It's
now.
crazy. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
no. I was glad to leave that behind me, though. I really wanted to be a sociology major,
Oh, I can see
um,
that.
and I feel like my parents are just like, "What's that?"
Yeah, yeah. It's like newer, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's also a little bit esoteric.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, for those who actually study it, you know how much it's all about the reality of living in society
Yeah.
and trying to navigate the landscape of human interaction.
Mhm.
So I
Hmm.
think it's incredibly practical
Yeah.
and grounded in reality. But
Hmm.
I feel like for my parents, that was a little harder to wrap their
Yeah.
heads around. And I felt like in the end, a lot of the courses that I was really enjoying
Mhm.
were cross-listed with poli sci or econ.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, well, I might as well just be one of those majors.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, we had sociology too. I thought it was an interesting class.
yeah,
I remember our professor came into class and she was like smoking a cigarette like in class and she like I think she wore like not like typical like professor clothes
yeah.
and she was just like trying to get some like see how we would
A
react.
reaction,
It was
yeah,
so interesting. I was like, huh, like this is pretty interesting. And she was
yeah.
just like talking about like social norms and yeah,
Mhm.
it was just really interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I'm like, I don't know how folks would react. I feel like people at Yale were pretty out there, so they might not even like
Really?
blink an eye.
Really? I would
So
never
I'm like,
think that. That's funny.
yeah,
It's really
yeah.
like that? Wow.
I
Huh.
mean, fairly chill. I mean, in the sense of like, people kind of take a laissez-faire approach
Oh.
uh, to letting people be who they are
Oh
in
wow.
a lot of
That's cool.
ways. So, um, Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say Rutgers was like a pretty. It was like it was so diverse that we
Mhm.
just had so many different groups that it was just like every day you can meet someone and just learn like something totally different.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Rutgers. It was a really diverse experience. Like every
Yeah.
day it's just like, oh, I could do this or I could do this, and
Mhm.
so yeah, I really
Definitely.
enjoyed college.
How were the relations between the Rutgers community and the city where you guys? Because it's in
Yeah.
Newark.
Well,
Or
so my girlfriend went to Newark. I went to New Brunswick,
oh, okay,
but
got it.
yeah, in New Brunswick is it was like we were the whole city pretty
City.
much. Like we
Okay.
took over the city. So it's I mean I think this is very similar to a lot of college campuses where
Mhm.
it was like the campus was nice, but as soon
Right.
as you step like a foot away from campus, it
Yeah.
was like not nice.
Right.
So I
Right.
thought that was interesting where like the city, it's like all these new buildings and millions of
Yeah.
dollars into like biomedical research and
Yeah.
all like policies and stuff, and then like a block away, it's like people are selling drugs.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting.
I mean, I feel like, I mean, a lot, like you said, a lot of college towns are kind of faced with that one because most colleges are very historical.
Yeah,
So they tend to be in cities and areas with a lot of history, which means a lot of aging infrastructure.
yeah,
And those areas, oftentimes aren't getting as much investment over time.
yeah.
So, I think that's one dynamic that's happening. But, it's also, I think, incumbent on the universities to try and uplift the communities where they
Yeah, I think we did. I think
reside.
we
Yeah.
tried. Yeah, there was a lot of like charities, and there was a lot of yeah, like there was a lot of good stuff too,
Yeah.
but it was definitely a work in progress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I think New Haven's kind of like that too,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah, for sure. It was definitely an issue while I was in school and something that, we had kind of
Hmm.
student activism around, trying to
Yeah.
get investment in the community. It's been a double-edged sword because I think
Hmm.
Yale has definitely turned a lot of investment into the city now,
Okay.
which means gentrification.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, there was a
um,
ton of that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it every time I go back, I'm fascinated
Hmm.
because what used to be like, and some of these are very historical. Institutions like Yankee Doodle was like this one little diner that had been there for
Hmm.
like 100 plus years or
Yeah.
something and got closed, gentrification.
Oh. Hmm.
And they've put in like a J. Crew and a Kiko
Oh wow.
makeup, and
Interesting.
I'm just like, what?
Oh
Like,
wow.
it's changed a ton.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah, same
yeah,
with us. It's like you come back and it's like barely you can't even recognize it anymore.
yeah,
There's all these like sky rises and like I'm
right,
like, wait, what? Like there's like yeah, it's crazy. There's all these like really nice glass buildings where you can
yeah.
like see through the whole building.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
so nice.
Then I'm
Yeah.
like, as a college student, I wasn't trying to spend that much money either. So getting a
Yeah.
quick bite at,
Yeah.
a diner like that was fantastic, or like the
Yeah.
late night eats or whatever. And now it's just like, every time I go out with my sister, who also went to Yale but just
Mhm.
graduated, on campus, it was like, let's go to Barcelona, which is like this,
Yep, Barcelona.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Basque, tapas bar with a extensive wine list. While
Yeah.
I was just like, what student does this on a regular basis? Like,
Times have changed.
times have changed. So
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I
Mhm.
guess it's good too because I feel like it's a sign that like society in general is just we have more resources. I guess it
Mm.
seems like.
Well, I mean, maybe I would say the university population probably
Hmm.
has more resources,
Hmm.
which is, I guess the question then becomes: is the admitted student base skewing more and more wealthy,
Huh.
as well as the community being gentrified?
Oh.
And I mean, I do recall, like, I remember going to information sessions for universities when I was applying to colleges, and
Hmm.
people would say, "Oh my goodness, is my child gonna get shot?"
Really? Oh man.
Like while they're in New Haven or whatever,
Hmm.
and it just felt
Yeah.
like the most ridiculous thing ever. But a lot of people were very, against, putting their kids
Hmm.
in certain schools because of the area that they were in, and
Yeah.
maybe this gentrification allows them to attract those types now.
Yeah. Huh.
But I don't know. I mean, that to me is a little concerning. I felt like there was always something
Hmm.
good about the great equalizer of being, the college student on the meal plan.
Yeah, yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, like Chinatown's obviously getting like gentrified like
Mhm.
crazy. Yeah, even like where my neighborhood, like the more east you go, like you're starting to see it. Like all these new
Mhm.
restaurants are popping up. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
definitely. Well, I saw you guys have a Trader Joe's on your block, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a big deal. That's awesome.
Yeah, Trader Joe's is awesome. Like I've
Favorite
only
place.
yeah, it's great. Like I only know about it because I'm in New York City, but prior
Mhm.
to that, I was like, what's a Trader Joe's? But
Yeah,
now it's like I love Trader Joe's.
absolutely. I have some like key items that I must have at all times. The mushroom risotto is everything. So
Yeah, Trader
yeah.
Joe's is great.
Yeah, definitely. New York staple. So
Yeah. So what's your favorite part about New York? I know you say like just
mhm.
like I guess like there's so many things to do, but like
Mhm.
what do you like about New York personally?
I mean, I think it goes back to this idea of just being truly open-minded.
Mhm.
I feel like I see those videos. There was one just that went viral earlier today or yesterday that was basically a random dance party that started in the Times Square subway station to
Oh
the
wow.
Cardi B song.
Oh.
And I mean, I'm just like, literally, this is the only city where that would happen.
Yeah. Hmm.
And those times when you walk down the street and someone is wearing the most ridiculous outfit
Yeah.
with like a rat on their head and nobody blinks an eye.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, whereas, so I just feel like this area where you can kind of shed pretense if you're willing to
Hmm.
is really powerful. Somewhat something about being anonymous.
Mhm.
Uh,
Hmm.
Walking around, though it is still a small town. I've run into people all the time.
Yeah.
Random subway platform. Actually, just the other day, I was on the C train and pulled up to 14th Street, and my one of my really really good friends just happened to be walking on the
Oh.
train at that station, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Hello." So it's
Yeah.
still kind of a small town in that sense, but especially because you usually have your stomping grounds.
Yeah.
But I really do love the fact that there is something really just truly open
Mhm.
about, being
Yeah, I love New York. Like I feel like it's just like you meet like so many interesting people
here.
like yourself. Like every day you can like meet someone that's like just really interesting that has a great
Mhm.
story to tell. It's really cool to just like you meet a lot of people from overseas, like from
Yeah.
like London or Sydney or
Right.
it's just really cool, like, really diverse.
And you can
Yeah.
find your seed here,
Yeah, yeah.
like whatever it is, there's other people who have wanted to try it or
Mhm.
like who
Yeah.
already have a league for it.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you know, but there is a karaoke league in the
Really? No
city. This is
way.
the thing. Like I said, you can really find anything here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they compete, for by
What?
song
Are you in
choice.
it?
I was in it. I'm not in
Okay,
it
that's
right
how you
now.
know. Okay.
But yeah, I found out about this randomly because I was at a wine tasting class
Hmm.
and ended up sitting across from this girl who was like an organizer of it,
Oh,
and she
okay.
invited me and my friend to it, and so we ended up doing it for one cycle. But again, random connections happening
Yeah.
in the city, wine tasting class, completely random, and ended up being in the league. It was a
Wow.
lot of pressure. People came out in
Oh yeah.
costumes. I
What?
mean, they
Oh
had
my God.
skits.
Wow.
It was
That's
the whole thing. It
that's
was a
pretty
big
cool.
deal. It was a big deal.
We should end it on that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
insane. So only in New York.
Oh my
Hmm.
God. So all right. So thank you, Jamila. Appreciate you. Come
Yeah,
here. That was fun. It was fun just
definitely.
having just having a good time and just talking about life. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting
Yeah, thanks
me.
for
This was
being the
so
guinea pig,
fun.
for being the first guest on my podcast.
Of course, definitely. I'm excited to see how other folks, of course, raise the bar after
The
this.
bar's been
So.
set. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.